In the 1880s near Tombstone, Arizona, two outlaws double-crossed the Cowboys and hid their stolen loot only to be shot by the authorities a short time later. One of the men, mortally wounded, escaped and on his deathbed told a tale of betrayal and lost treasure. This is the legend of the Skeleton Canyon Treasure. In the late 1800s, two outlaws, Richard Zwing Hunt and Billy Grounds, showed up in southern Arizona. They started out as small-time cattle rustlers, but soon fell in with the Cowboys. The Cowboys were a notorious group of outlaws that you may have seen from the movie Tombstone, including Johnny Ringo, Curly Bill, Tom and Frank McClory, and the Clantons, as well as others. Along with the Cowboys, Hunt and Grounds became notorious outlaws, and they committed several notable crimes in the area. They stole 30 head of cattle in Sulphur Springs and sold them to a butcher in San Pedro. As they often did when this was found out, they headed down to Mexico. They had hideouts in Mexico. They also had hideouts in the Southern Territories. So they were able to move back and forth to Mexico and the US, as well as many of the Cowboys. They had connections on both sides of the border. While in Mexico, they spent 3 months looting banks and pillaging towns, and then came back to the States to hide out. In the spring of 1882, Hunt and Grounds decided to rob the Tombstone Mining Company. They entered the main office of the Tombstone Mining Company, and they opened the doors, walked in, and the head engineer, a man M.R. Peel, was standing there. They immediately pulled out their rifles, pointed them at Peel, and before they could even demand the money out of the safe, they were either met with resistance or one of the rifles accidentally fired, but either way, they killed M.R. Peel right there on the spot. Knowing that this gunshot would have been heard by anyone in that area, their plan was completely destroyed. It was completely out the window, so they fled. A few days later, Deputy Billy Breckenridge was informed that Hunt and Grounds were holed up at the Chandler Ranch about 9 miles outside of Tombstone. The sheriff was out of town, so Deputy Breckenridge decided that he was going to take on this responsibility. He got Hugh Allen, Jack Young, and Johnny Gillespie to help him out. So these men surrounded the cabin that Hunt and Grounds were holed up in, and they had 2 people at the front door and 2 people at the back door. Johnny Gillespie, under the supervision of Deputy Breckenridge, walked up to the back door, knocked on the door, and yelled out, "It's me, the sheriff." This is probably the last thing you want to do when you have 2 outlaws holed up inside the house that are not going to give themselves up. Hunt opens the door, shoots Gillespie, killing him on the spot, notices Young in the background, starts shooting at him, and actually hits him in the leg. At the same time that this is happening at the back door, Grounds opens the front door, sees Allen, and shoots him in the neck. Breckenridge is hiding behind a tree but near Allen, so he reaches out, he grabs Allen and pulls him back, all the while with Grounds shooting at him. Breckenridge hides behind the tree, gets his shotgun out, comes around the tree, and shoots Grounds right in the head, mortally wounding him. Hunt flees the back of the cabin, comes around to the side of the house. Breckenridge sees him, and he shoots Hunt right in the chest. Hunt is seriously wounded after being shot in the chest, but he manages to escape, find his brother Hugh, and they hold up in a cave. According to Zwing Hunt's brother Hugh, Zwing was killed by Apache natives. There are also tales of Hunt surviving long enough to make it back to Texas and tell tales of betrayal and lost treasure. Either way, before he died, it's reported that he either told to Hugh or he told friends back in Texas the story that I'm about to tell you right now. Hunt, Ground, and the Cowboys didn't care about the border. They didn't care about nationality. They didn't care if you were Mexican, American, or any other nationality. They would rob you either way. They also had hideouts in Mexico and connections in Mexico. It was on one of these trips to Mexico that a man named Jim Hughes found out about a group of Mexican gangsters that had looted Monterrey, Mexico, and that were headed north into Arizona territory to hide out. Having connections in Mexico, he was able to find out the route that they they were going to take that took them through Skeleton Canyon. Hughes met up with Curly Bill and planned an ambush of the Mexican gang. They needed more members, so they enlisted a few of Curly Bill's gang along with Hunt and Grounds. So these men found the perfect spot in Skeleton Canyon called Devil's Kitchen to ambush this Mexican gang. It worked nearly flawlessly. They had the high ground. The Mexican gang came in. None of them knew what was going on. They weren't expecting it. They weren't ready for it. And the outlaws were able to easily kill all of the Mexicans without any of them getting hurt. The only problem was that the pack mules were terrified when the gunfighting started, so they killed all of the Mexicans, but the pack mules were running away with the loot, so they ended up having to shoot the mules so they didn't lose the money that they came there for. So now these men had the money that they were after, but they didn't have any mules to carry it out with them. So they were only able to take the money that they could carry with them. So they went down, they gathered it all up, they took what they could carry, and they dug a hole and they buried the rest. So this burial spot is supposed to be near Devil's Kitchen in the Skeleton Canyon. What they did next, of course, what any gangster would do after a successful robbery like this, they went into Tombstone and they started drinking. So while the members of the gang were partying at the saloon and spending all of the money that they just got, Hunt and Grounds had another plan. They got together and snuck out while everyone else was partying. Hunt and Grounds hired a Mexican with several horses to go back to the location. They dug up the treasure, they moved it to a different spot, buried it again, so only they would know about it. And to guarantee only they would know about it, of course, they killed the Mexican. It was only a short time after they had moved the treasure that they had their run-in with Deputy Breckenridge. In between the time that they moved the treasure and they were killed, they were holed up in a cave where Ground is supposedly said to have written 9 letters to his sister Maggie. These 9 letters each give clues to the location of the buried treasure. Several people claim to have seen these letters, but they're not publicly known. Also, when Hunt was on his deathbed and he told this story, there are reports that he drew a map to the location of this treasure, but that has also never publicly been seen. As for the treasure, it's supposed to be $300,000 worth of silver buried at the foot of Davis Mountain between Wilcox and Lordsburg. This area now is the base of Harris Mountain. I hope you enjoyed the story. If so, don't forget to like, leave comments, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.